Joining us now from Melbourne is the Spectator Australia's Fire at Will podcast host, Will Kingston. Will, it's great to see you in Australia. Although you're in Melbourne, we have to start with what's going on in the UK. Last week, UK Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer announced that his Labor Party is implementing tough new immigration laws with regards to work, family settlement and student visas. Now, in my opinion, this has nothing to do with his core values of keeping, borders secure and has everything to do with the rise of Nigel Farage's party, Reform UK. Now, we know that Farage's popularity has absolutely skyrocketed. And now Keir Starmer is battling, within his own party against MPs, and the rest of the public is quite sceptical about what he actually believes. So what's your take on all of this? Will Starmer's flip-flopping actually help him, or will people see right through it?
Gabriella, I agree with everything you just said, with one important amendment, and that is you made an assumption that Keir Starmer has core values, and I'm not sure that he does. Look, the problem is that you can't just take the public for idiots like this. When you have a record over a long period of time where you've been open borders, where you've been anti-Brexit, where you've been pro-multiculturalism, and suddenly, after you get absolutely hammered in local council elections and your party is facing an existential wipeout, you suddenly go to the right of Nigel Farage. So the problem is for him goes to credibility. No one believes him. In many respects, it was a strong speech, but it was a strong speech by a weak man, and everyone knows that he's a weak man when it comes to borders. So I don't think it will work. The latest polls have said that he is the second least popular Prime Minister, or has the second lowest number for favourability in recorded UK political history. I can't see it getting any better. If he can make a dent on the numbers of legal and illegal migration over a long period of time, don't forget that there is an election in 2029, maybe he can start to claw back that perception. But the fact of the matter is no one believes him in the UK.
Yeah, and he set no real targets, so you can't really hold him accountable. So, it's an interesting one. But can you talk to us about Nigel Farage? He's had the momentum behind him for some time, but he's still dominating in the polls. Why is that?
Well, I go back to what you said about core values. I think he has a series of core values, and I think those values are aligned with the moment that the UK faces. So really, what he's just saying is that mass migration in the UK has changed the cultural fabric of the country, and this is now the number one defining issue in the United Kingdom. It will be in Australia in years to come, by the way, but the UK has reached crisis point on it, and he is talking a big game on that. And also, he is playing into the fact that the Conservative Party have effectively squandered their recent time in office. They haven't come out strongly enough, really, to say that we are now a Conservative Party again, as opposed to the centrist or soft left party they have been. So he's just doing what a Conservative Party should say they should do on the tin. He's basically saying we're going to be pro-business, we're going to go back to a reduced migration, and we're going to have pride in the United Kingdom again. And I think there is a lesson in that for Australia as well, in that if you actually have a bit of gumption, if you have a bit of backbone, and you say, these are Conservative values, we're not going to be cowed by the establishment media, we're not going to be cowed by other politicians who say we need to move to the centre, as is what we heard in the Australian election, there is a lane for you. But unfortunately, it requires a charismatic leader, and it requires someone who has really strong political skills like Farage in order to do that. And there aren't many of those in Australia, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately, you're absolutely right. Let's talk about free speech in the UK. Conservative commentator Charlie Kirk posted on X today, if you want to renew your love of America, spend 3 days in the UK, you will kiss the ground when you get back home. And look, I bring that up because a mother who was jailed for a tweet that she posted after the Southport murders has now spoken out. Lucy Connolly was jailed for 31 months in October for posting a tweet. She was jailed for inciting racial hatred, and her appeal against her sentence has been dismissed. Will, can you bring us up to speed on what Lucy Connolly has had to say?
Yeah, so by way of context, the tweet that she did put out was distasteful. It was an awful thing to say. But again, we've all said awful things, and there was the important caveat that she said along the lines of burn down all the migrant hotels for all I care, which for me and for most people with any common sense took it out of the realm of incitement to violence and into a political opinion. So she is now being perceived, I think rightly, as a political prisoner in the United Kingdom. She appealed that sentence, which was extraordinarily unjust. 31 months for that tweet, 31 months in prison. And unfortunately, the judge has said, no, you're going to have to serve every one of those, despite the fact that her husband is suffering from a range of different illnesses, and despite the fact that she has a young daughter. It is absolutely scandalous, particularly when you put it into the broader context of the United Kingdom, where you're seeing rapists getting their sentences cut early, where you're seeing less sentences for actual crimes, for physical crimes, for punching someone in the street, for doing real damage. But unfortunately, those 4 crimes are now punished in many instances more seriously than actual crimes in the country. And the last thing I'll say on this, Gabriella, is that's in a broader context, to Charlie's point, where freedom of speech is under assault. 30 people each day are arrested in the United Kingdom for things they have said online. Now, again, this is A, not what should be done in a Western liberal democracy, but B, it doesn't work. It doesn't mean that you get less Nazi sentiment or less fascist sentiment or whatever. It just drives that or inflames that even more. So this is a very sad, dark day for the United Kingdom, and it needs free speech advocates to stand up and say this is just not on.
Let's talk about what's happening in the United States this week, as Jake Tapper and Alex Thompson's book Original Sin, detailing the Democrats' elaborate cover-up of President Joe Biden's cognitive decline. Joe Biden has revealed that he has been diagnosed with prostate cancer. Now, of course, I've said it many times, it's so sad, and he absolutely deserves the best treatment. But there are so many questions, Will, around the timing of this, why he wasn't properly tested for 10 years. What were the people around him doing? Who knew what and when? And, you know, as we've been lied to so many times by the Democratic Party, by Joe Biden himself, he said he wasn't going to pardon Hunter, then he did pardon Hunter. There was COVID. There have been so many lies coming out from Joe Biden and the people around him. What's your reaction hearing this news? Were you sceptical about the timing, about why we're just learning about this right now?
Just a bit sceptical, Gabriella, yeah. The fact of the matter is the former Biden White House and the Democratic Party do not deserve the benefit of the doubt on this. And the fact of the matter is none of it makes any sense. I think this will rightfully come to be revealed as the greatest political scandal in modern American history. There's only 3 things that could have happened here. Either A, they knew about the cancer when he was president and they lied about it. They deliberately withheld it from the public. B, they did not test him for prostate cancer, which is a really easy test. It's a test that Obama got, who was in better shape than Biden. It's a test that Trump gets. It is a common test for blokes over the age of 50, and they chose not to do that, which would be gross medical negligence. Or the third option, which I think is actually the most likely, which is the Biden White House or Jill Biden basically said, do not give him this test because we're afraid of what we will see and we will have to not disclose it. Yeah. But whichever one of those that you choose to believe, they are all a political scandal almost without equal. So questions need to be asked. It is interesting that the Democrats are coming out and saying, well, now that he's sick, we can't have this conversation. We need to hold back. Absolutely not. This needs to be investigated because this goes to the very heart of the so-called democracy that Democrats claim to love so much but have done so much to trash.
Absolutely. Will Kingston, thank you so much for joining us on Power Hour. Welcome back to Australia.
Thanks, Gabriella.